contribute positively to society, then I thought, well, how could not knowing the Trivium keep one in captivity? You know, like how could that be a form of prison? So let's talk about the first skill or subject, grammar. So definition that resonated most with me for grammar was the art of inventing symbols and combining them to express thought. Once again, mentalism, right there. It's like, unless we're psychic, we need to create this thing to express our thought to that another mind can interpret, like poetry. It's like, if this was a poem and you just sensed it, you'd feel the paper, you'd see the symbols, it might have a certain smell to it, but you would not know the idea that's being transmitted because it's a mind quality. So why do we need to value grammar? Because it's how we symbolize the world around us so that we can comprehend the idea. So grammar is extremely powerful because if that's what we use to break down the world so that we can understand it, then if you are using symbols that are given to you by somebody else, you're at the, like, your thoughts are being shaped without your awareness if you don't understand how to use symbols and the fact that all symbols are representations of ideas. So it's extremely important for us to understand the symbols that we're using, why they're used, so that we can actually have a choice in our actions. You know, otherwise we're kind of at the mercy of other people's ideas. So symbols have a huge impact on how we experience life. Like, I just think about how humor differs among languages. So could it be that, you know, there's certain ideas that can't be expressed through certain symbols? Because we all break down, like all languages break down the same reality, but sometimes things get lost in translation because that symbol can't necessarily represent the idea that you're trying to get across. So like a common way that we create symbols about like qualities of mind would be like showing somebody that we love them. It's like, love is like a mind quality. We have to show somebody. It's not like we could just say, I love you, and they like know it. It's like we have to symbolize it through something. So like maybe getting a gift that for somebody that is, you know, will show that like your intimate knowledge of that person and that you went to all this trouble to find it, then they can infer that you love them. Or let's say you're consoling somebody and you're not saying anything, you're just sitting with them and feeling their pain with them. It's like they can infer that you love them by your willingness to experience that with them. So the greater that we understand the use of symbols, the greater we can, or the greater understanding we have of symbols, the greater understanding we have in creating them, using them, and understanding the symbols that we're using around us.
Just a note, sorry, on grammar. Just, you know, going through grammar school, you know, first 5 grades, we learn the symbols, right? But we don't necessarily learn the meaning behind them or why we learn how to use them, right? We learn that this series of symbols makes up a word, but we don't learn maybe the linguistic history, the etymology of that symbol and what it might mean in other cultures and what it might mean in history. So I think it's like this group is especially important for learning that.
Exactly what you said. It's like, because then you're extremely limited. If you don't know why a word is a word, then that limits your ability to figure things out, because all we're symbolizing life. Okay, so let's talk about logic, the art of thinking. So the definition that resonated most with me is thinking is Thinking is dividing the up of an idea into comprehensible pieces. So think about like a fisherman. He's out in a boat, primitive fisherman. He's got his boat and his net, and he wants to, next time he goes out in, he wants to be able to come out the same distance. So he holds his net up. Let's say there's a mountain in the background. He lines the edge of the net up to the mountain, and he counts how many squares fit into that mountain, so that when he goes in and comes back out, he can hold his net back up to that mountain. And if there's more squares in than before, he's too close. And if there's less squares, he's too far. So he's divided up reality into comprehensible pieces. Another example, when we find an object, let's say this paper, we've never seen it before. What are we going to do? First, we're going to look at it. We're just going to see, what is it? Have we seen anything like it before? We might touch it. We might feel the weight of it. We might smell it. Well, the process of division and sorting has begun. You are breaking that piece into, you're breaking it down into smaller pieces, and then you're comparing it to stuff that you already know that you might, to try to formulate an opinion or formulate some sort of understanding. Well, what about information? Like, how do we break down a piece of information into smaller pieces? Well, ask questions. Why was it written? Who wrote it? What was their intention? And if we still don't understand, we can break it down to even ask more questions, and to hopefully you can come to a point where you can start putting those pieces back together and creating this idea of whatever that information is trying to convey. So then this is where you would use your logical fallacies and other techniques that you have that will help you sort that information. Another thing I kind of wanted to think of, or I thought was kind of important to think about too, is intuition. It's like we all have this extra ability, intuition, that if we're sincere in our quest for truth, this is an extra tool that we can have. So what I'm about to share is all from Manly Hall, who's they call him a mystic. He studied a whole bunch of occult hidden information. He's like a Rosicrucian.
He wrote the book Secret Teachings of All Ages. Excellent book.
Yeah, so this is from the lecture Developing the Faculty of Intuition. And he explains intuition as the integrator of our total experience. So what that means is that we're taking in so much information, and most of it we're not aware of. But that it's being sorted and processed without our knowledge. So he explains that developing our intuition is a process of humbling yourself to life, because a lot of times we don't want to accept what life throws at us, because it conflicts with what we believe about ourselves, what we want for ourselves, and so we don't want to hear it. So the first thing that one must do in developing your intuition, and the most important thing, is being self-honest. Is just being honest with why you feel how you feel, why you think how you feel, so that you can deal with those accordingly. Because it's ourselves that get in the way of our intuition. So the more we want to improve our intuition, the more selfless we need to become and be willing to let the truth flow through us, which means that we need mental clarity to hear it, and we also need to have to be able to accept what it comes to us. So how about rhetoric? The art of communicating thought from one mind to another. Again, mentalism. It's like our mind is this thing that doesn't exist in this reality. And like we have to create things to express our thoughts so that other minds who are aware of this reality can break down. And so to me, it's like, it's another form of symbolism. It's like, it's just all symbols, auditory symbols. Our body language symbolizes. So there's some practical techniques, I guess, is appealing to somebody's reason. So like we have inductive reasoning, which science does, and they create a law from an instance. So trial and error, they get the same thing over and over, like, well, that must be a law. They drop a ball, falls down. So things fall downhill, they're like, okay, that's a law. Then there's deductive reasoning, where it's like, okay, I know that water rolls downhill, so I can create plumbing. I know that like I can create this drainage system based on this law. And then there's like analysis, statistics, and facts. And basically what you're doing is you're breaking down information for people and sorting it so that they don't have to do it. Then there's appeal to authority. And like in groups like this, would say that that's not as important because we're just here to find truth. And we all might, truth speaks to everybody if you listen close enough at times. But like, let's say you're in a business setting and or like you're in an interview, you really want to let your audience know why they should trust you. You know, why you're credible for saying what you're saying, or citing other credible sources. So that's like appealing to authority. And then there's the distinction of terms. So we want to be extremely clear on what we're saying. Explicit references made to multiple meanings of a word to remove ambiguity. So, because we want people to understand our thoughts exactly how we want them to be understood. Another skill or technique, I guess, would be the thesis or the argument. So we want to make sure that our main point is very clear and it flows throughout our argument. We don't want to have this ambiguous point that people really can't follow, where at the end of the presentation they're like, well, what was he talking, like what was the point? So it's just kind of like having a general focus through the whole thing. And then another thing that'll help us, I guess, is anticipating objections to your argument. Because what that does is that allows you to keep presenting moving forward while addressing points that people might oppose. And I just thought, like, well, because if I'm listening to somebody and I'm like, I get distracted by my thinking of opposing ideas, so that like, if I address that for that person, then they're not stuck thinking about it and they can follow along to the rest of the presentation without being as distracted. And then another technique, I guess, that I've used a lot is asking questions and then answering them. So now I'll talk about a little bit like more qualities of speaking, where it's like this, what I'm about to share helped me a lot. I'm really nervous, like I'm an introvert, this is way outside of my comfort zone.
Doing great.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like when we speak with people, we just want to have a conversation about the heart, a conversation from the heart about something we're passionate about. And when I heard that, it alleviated a lot of the pressure from me, because it's like, I'm passionate about truth, you know, and if I can come to a place and we can just learn and grow together, then it's like, who cares if I'm nervous, or, you know, who cares? It's like, it just, and then plus, it's like we can connect with each other, like, on a human level, I guess, or, so then I kind of found these 4 languages of communication. So they're just kind of principles of communicating. So the first one is your energy. It's like we want to make sure that our energy matches what we're talking about. It's like we don't want to talk to somebody about something that's very serious and kind of be joking and laughing and kind of make light of something that isn't light. Or if we're talking about something light, we don't want to be robotic and blah, blah. Like, so it's like we want to make sure that, because it's, what it is distracting. And it takes away from your message. So another principle is the ability to transmit your thoughts into something comprehensible, into something comprehensible. So like writers do this very well, where it's like, the better that you can translate your thoughts, like what you think, feel, sense, into symbols that people can understand, the more they can feel what you're feeling. It's just, it's very effective to kind of paint pictures for people. And then another, I guess, principle is just pure facts of matter. Like some people love to have their ears tickled. They love metaphors. They love the kind of vague, open-ended statements. But then others, that just is distasteful to them. They want facts. They want the pure facts. So give it to them. And then the last one I think is the most important is it's what makes you lovable. It's like, be that person. Be the most authentic part of you. Let your guard down. Like, just open up to the audience so that they can connect with you. So, our minds can be a prison, or it can set us free and take us anywhere we desire. We create symbols to express mind's idea. It seems a Trivium will help us create better symbols, decode them, and express them. To me, that's a form of mental freedom. If we have no idea why we're using the symbols around us, and we don't look deeper into them, our thoughts and actions are controlled by those who created the symbols. To me, that's a form of enslavement. So, if I have to apply this line of thinking to the quadrivium, then I would say the quadrivium is one idea expressed in 4 symbols that if we break down into understandable pieces, then we can recreate with the same idea that the universal mind has.
Wow.
Damn.